And as leaders, and this applies to lots of leadership things, sometimes we've got to go, yeah, doesn't suit me personally, but I've got to model the right behaviours that I want and stimulate that. So are we going to have to grin and bear this? Are we going to have to, put our pyjamas to one side and get in the office? Is that what we're going to do? Let's just think about organisations a bit first, right? So this is our second face-to-face for this, and so we're clearly out of the pandemic. Don't read the news today, and we're all returning back to normal. And we were having a chat the other day about remote working and offices. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling the pressure of allowing people to remain remote. Thank you, Tom. Brilliant, lovely. Allowing people to continue to remote work. And that feels like a retention strategy now for me. It feels like, okay, we've invested in all these people and they all want to work from home, and if I say no, then they're all going to leave me and go and work for somebody else, right? But then we've got maybe some stakeholders who aren't technologists returning to the office, maybe the marketing team, or in my case, the wine buying team or whatever, and they're all gung-ho to get back to the office, and they're there, and they want to know where their support mechanism is from product and technology and all that kind of stuff. And so their sort of demands are like, no, we'd quite like you to come into the office and stuff. How are we going to balance that? Where are we going to win? Where are we going to lose? Is it something we even need to worry about? Will this just play itself out and we don't have to worry about it and we just have to keep up? What are your thoughts? Why don't you go with that first, Jackson?
If I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you the direct answer. I don't. No, unfortunately. I think it's more the latter, though. I do. I think what we're seeing is the Great Resignation with a capital R feels like that's a short-lived moment, and it's been a super emotional time for everybody, right? Cool. Like everybody's had a lot of time to think about their lives, and it can be natural that many people have found themselves wondering if they should do something different. So, but I don't think that that's going to become a perpetual question every single year. How can I hopscotch to the next best thing with the next best policy? I just see this as the natural benefits of being together. Better collaboration, not feeling like you're left out. I think this is like the marketing team's there and I'm not there, what's going on? I think these will naturally will start to encourage people to come back. So the model we've adopted, just for reference, right, is the hybrid model. It's not novel. Most companies are doing this. And we've left it very loose, right? It's going to be optimized by teams. Teams will decide, both individuals with their managers, but also as a team, like how often should they come back to the office? How much will that person or this person be at home, and when will they come into the office? Avoid codifying it, right? Because I think what we're already seeing is people who are like, I'm never going to come in. I'm just going to stay, remote. Like they're in the office tonight. I see them. Like, and it's fine because I think there's going to be this natural pullback. I don't think we're going back to where we were though. I think that there has been a structural change. And I think companies have seen that a hybrid model through a forced remote work setup has actually been more valuable. Higher productivity and thought work, probably a decrease in collaboration and a decrease in both mental health and team health. So we need to sort of supplement that with getting people back socializing, back in person.
And I think I'm seeing a bit of that. I think that people are breaking through that first time of coming back, then doing, where they just say hi, and then they do the second time and they're like, oh, I remember how this is, and then they miss their home desk, right? And then they do that, and then they get bored. And I think hybrid is where people are going to be attracted to. Right. And that'll be different things for different companies, but it's definitely, I think actually for those companies, a lot of them have gone very bold. Might be some of your companies gone out there and said, no, we're total remote first, that's it. I think actually that's going to turn off as many people as it turns on, right? Tom, what do you think about this?
Well, your last point, absolutely. So we had this debate probably 3 months ago now. So when we were just beginning to reopen and work through how are we going to do it? What's the right balance? It was interesting from a leadership perspective as well, how different the perspectives were in a team. You found, so me as the CTO, our chief delivery officer, effectively our chief operating officer, probably more on the introverted side of things, quite comfortable with, oh yeah, I could do this forever. This is fine. I'm quite comfortable with this. our chief sales officer, our chief executive officer, they had a very, very different perspective on, no, this is not the way that we can run a business, the interaction, social interaction, all the rest, etc. So we, of course, have also landed in a hybrid model. We've invested, I mean, you know, we're a large organisation that's always had a distributed workforce anyway. So the leap from having, you know, a team that's partially based in Bangalore, another part in Cluj in Transylvania in Romania, a third part then here in the UK, to fully remote was not completely transformational for us as an organisation. It was something that we were anyway doing, but what we're really investing the time in now is finding ways to positively encourage people to come back in. And so that's about, you know, actually it's about the social side of things as much as anything else. We're finding that we're bringing people in for evening sessions, for networking sessions, for collaboration around particular themes, that kind of thing. But the other area where we think that it is going to, where we can't stick with a full remote mode, is actually in developing the next generation of engineers. Yes, you can work offline, you can do an awful lot that way, but you do learn from the people around you. And again, it's one thing with me, kind of comfortable middle-aged guy, lives in West London in a you know, it's West London, so they're still relatively small, but a comfortable place, decent house, have a room that I can go to. I've got engineering teams across the business where, you know, they're sitting in a flat with 4 other guys sharing the internet connection and all the rest. That's not a viable model for them either. So it's not all rosy on that side. I think even for the generation that I think we're all using as an argument for, they're going to want full remote and work wherever they want, whenever they want.
So we're gonna ask Milena to answer that question in a second. But what I'm wondering here is that how are we going to address in that case if we're all like, yeah, as leaders we think hybrid and then a bit more and, you know, it'll become a natural thing. How are we going to address the current issue where people are looking at it as a job-defining criteria, right? I mean, you know, all of the job sites have changed. They used to have home. What did they have? They used to have office-based part-time, and now they've got remote, right? And you know, as a choice. And so it's people are saying that's as important to me as, you know, a pizza, or as important to me as a pool table, or whatever the other things are that people want. So, you know, how do we bridge that gap until it settles back down, basically? What do you think about that, Milena?
I don't have that much to add to the original part of the question. Boringly, I actually agree with everything Jackson and Thomas said. But this is like I know. I wanted to disagree, but it's just this is the all said smart thing. So I just gotta agree with that. I can't tell to what level I genuinely want people back in the office because I personally enjoy it versus genuinely believing that that's what's going to happen. But I do think actually it's going to move back to somewhere closer, not where we were, but somewhere closer to the original state where maybe we do 3 days in the office on average. My the thing that I find most funny about this is when we did a survey around my team, how people would like this handled. Pretty much everyone said, I would like to come in whenever I want, but every time when I come in, I want everyone else to be there, which is obviously unsolvable problem. So it's kind of, you know, just that sort of convinced me that, you know, we will piss some people off, at least temporarily. To answer your second question, actually, I think, and, you know, I could be wrong about this, but I think people are complaining more than are actually ready to, you know, pick up their stuff and go quit in masses. Okay. That's at least kind of what we are seeing so far. I think my company has taken a possibly a bit more aggressive approach than most of the tech world, we are not mandating anything, but we are recommending people come for 3 days. Kind of there's like a company day on Wednesdays, and then 2 other days they can pick and choose. People have sort of gradually been coming back. No one's quite keeping attendance and kind of all that, but people have been coming back. Have also been applying more of a carrot model than a stick model. So a lot of breakfasts and parties and kind of things to motivate people to come back. But yes, I'm not seeing people really kind of pick up and throw their toys out of a pram and kind of go quit and go elsewhere. Some surely will. I think it might be one of those decisions that they regret, a few years down the line when the career slows down or kind of ends up being derailed in other ways. But it's just very hard to be sure how these things are going to go.
It's interesting that Tom and Milena both said that you're quite comfortable. So you're not just the people in charge, but you're role models, of course. People are looking at you and saying, well, how are they behaving? What are they doing? I'm in a similar position. I think, my children have grown up and left the house, so my house is nice and quiet. I've got a proper office and a garden I can go and walk around if it gets a bit crazy.
Advantages of Norfolk.
Yeah, advantages of Norfolk. There had to be one. Anyway, and I think, Tom, to your point, is that not everybody's in that situation. And as leaders, and this applies to lots of leadership things, sometimes we've got to go, doesn't suit me personally, but I've got to model the right behaviours that I want and stimulate that. So are we going to have to grin and bear this? Are we going to have to, put our pyjamas to one side and get in the office? Is that what we've got to do?
Well, I mean, that's certainly what we're doing. As I say, it's going to be a gradual process. We're doing it bit by bit. And to your point about are we going to lose out on the top talent to do that? I think there will be a bit of that for sure. I don't also foresee that we're going to get to a point that we are mandating. I don't think that's not the kind of organisation we are. I do think that there will be a level of therefore also self-selection in our recruitment process as a result. And actually, that's fine. We need across our engineering divisions people that are going to match that model. I think. I mean, that's
I mean, it becomes part of your culture, right? And people will have to buy into your culture or not.
Right. That's right. So I mean, I think it is a conscious decision and one that we didn't take lightly. But where if that's not attractive to you, that hybrid flavour and the highly collaborative side of the way that we're working, then it's probably not going to fly. I mean, again, just back to that first point. With an organisation with massively distributed teams anyway, it's not as if we've ever mandated everybody to be in one place to be successful at engineering. That's not what it's about. Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe just make one. Try to spice it up a bit here. So the one thing I would say is I think it's the other side that's going to fail. Companies are going to fail to operate a remote workforce because that takes a lot of effort and a totally different philosophical approach, right? And some companies have done that really well. You look at like GitLab, right? Like founded as a remote only, cherish it, like leadership, people join because it's remote only.
But it's effort, right?
It takes a ton of effort and your ways of working have to change, right? You have to have frankly, just a different cost model in your business as well to be able to operate it. So I don't think it's as easy to just be like, because we went under duress home for a year, we can just do that forever and be as profitable and grow the same way and as healthy in terms of culture. So I think it's actually the companies, the management, I'm going to look at us, who are going to fail. The employees, rather than this is going to be a panacea for the employees coming into this model.
I think you're right. And I think, I'm hoping that the audience, as they've actually, come out, I mean, I've seen several of them wearing slippers, but if they, as they've come out, hopefully they're kind of...